The Kthrex harvester drones had been circling Yaren's settlement for 3 days when she finally stopped counting the hours until death. She sat cross-legged in the dust outside the last functioning shelter, picking dried protein paste from under her fingernails. Not exactly how she'd imagined spending her 24th birthday, but then again, she hadn't imagined watching her entire colony get systematically dismantled by machines that hummed like broken refrigerators either. The comparison made her laugh, a sharp bark that startled Counselor Vesh from his meditation. "You find our extinction amusing?" He didn't open his crystalline eyes, typical of his species. The Veshtar always looked vaguely annoyed, their facial structures locked in a permanent expression of mild disapproval. "I find it absurd," Yaren said, wiping sweat from her forehead. The second sun had just cleared the horizon, turning the sky a nauseating shade of orange. "We came all this way to build something new, and we're going to die because some mining conglomerate's automated fleet has a faulty recognition algorithm." Vesh finally looked at her, his faceplates shifting slightly. "The Kthrex Corporation ceased to exist 400 cycles ago. These are ghost machines, operating on dead programming." "Yeah, well, ghost machines still tear through hull plating pretty efficiently." She'd watched them work yesterday, their articulated limbs peeling back sections of the colony ship like opening a can of sardines. Methodical, patient, completely indifferent to the screaming. The sound still echoed in her ears during the brief moments when she managed to sleep. 18 survivors left. 18 out of 247. Yaren stood, her knees popping. 24 felt ancient lately. "I'm checking the perimeter sensors again. They will show the same thing they showed an hour ago." "Yeah, well, I need to move or I'll lose my mind." The sensor array was jury-rigged garbage, cobbled together from 3 different incompatible systems. Jiho had built it in the first 2 days, back when Jiho was still alive, and they still thought someone might answer their distress beacon. The screen flickered with static, showing the same useless information. 16 harvester drones in a holding pattern, just outside weapons range. Waiting. For what? Nobody knew. Yaren tapped the screen, as if that would magically improve reception. A habit from childhood, back on Earth's orbital station where she'd grown up. Her grandmother used to smack the side of their ancient monitor to fix the picture. The memory made her chest tight. Earth was 63 light years away. Might as well be a fairy tale. The scanner beeped. New contact, high atmosphere. Yaren's heart skipped before her brain caught up. Probably just debris from the colony ship. The harvesters had been chewing on it all week, leaving fragments in decaying orbits. She watched the trajectory anyway, because what else was there to do? The object was descending too deliberately. She blinked, checking her vision wasn't playing tricks. 3 days of inadequate sleep and recycled air could do weird things. But no, the contact was definitely underpowered flight, adjusting course to avoid the harvester drone sensor envelope. Small, maybe frigate-sized. No, smaller. Assault shuttle? Her hands started shaking. She pressed the comm stud on her collar. "Vesh, we've got incoming. Kthrex reinforcements." "No, something else. Something that's actively avoiding the drones." Silence on the line. Then, quietly, "A rescue ship?" Yaren didn't answer. Couldn't. The hope hurt too much to speak aloud. The shuttle came in fast, pulling maneuvers that made Yaren's stomach flip just watching the trajectory. Whoever was flying had either exceptional skill or a death wish. Possibly both. It dropped below the sensor grid's coverage, and she lost it. "Did we lose them?" Vesh's voice crackled in her ear. "Lost contact. They went subgrid." Old B. The ground shook. A thunderclap rolled across the settlement, and Yaren's first thought was that the Kthrex had finally decided to finish them. She hit the dirt, arms covering her head, waiting for the cutting lasers. Instead, she heard the sweetest sound imaginable, retrothrusters firing. The shuttle had landed maybe 200 meters out, behind a ridge of volcanic rock. The design didn't match anything in Yaren's memory, all angular plating and aggressive lines. Functional. Military. A hatch blew open with a pressurized hiss, and 3 figures emerged. They wore armor Yaren had only seen in historical archives, the kind Earth's special operations used during the Frontier Wars. Matte black composite plates, integrated helmet displays, enough weapons to invade a small moon. But that wasn't what made her freeze. They moved wrong. Too smooth, too efficient. Enhanced. Augmented. The lead figure pulled off their helmet, and Yaren's world tilted sideways. Human. Definitely human. A woman with sharp features and hair buzzed to nearly nothing, eyes scanning the settlement with practiced assessment. She couldn't have been older than 30, but her eyes looked ancient. Anyone here speak standard? Her voice carried across the distance, amplified by her suit's speakers. Korean accent, thick enough to identify even through the translation matrix. Yaren found her voice. We speak standard. Who are you? Lieutenant Min Jae Park, Earth Expeditionary Force. We picked up your distress call. She paused, looking at the ruins of the settlement. Took us a while to get here. Sorry about that. Sorry. She said sorry like she was late to dinner, not arriving after 3 days of hell. One of the other soldiers, also helmetless now, stepped forward. Male, younger, with a crooked smile that seemed wildly inappropriate given the circumstances. I'm Corporal Hyun Dasik. Don't mind the LT, she's not great with people. We're here to get you out. The Kthrex harvesters, Yaren. Started. Yeah, we saw those. Dasik's smile widened. Old models, right? K7 series? We've dealt with worse. Vesh had emerged from the shelter, along with the other survivors. They clustered together, staring at the 3 soldiers like they'd appeared from a dream. The third soldier, still helmeted, was scanning the perimeter with some kind of advanced sensor array. Lieutenant Park approached Yaren directly, her gait suggesting someone who'd spent more time in zero-G than planetside. Up close, Yaren could see scars on her neck disappearing into her armor's collar. Combat scars. You're the one who sent the distress beacon? Park asked. Yeah. Yaren calm. I was communications officer. The past tense hurt. Good signal discipline. Clean encoding. Park's expression softened microscopically. Saved your lives. 18 of us. Out of 200. Yaren's voice cracked. You're really from Earth? Third Fleet, Special Operations Division. Park turned, surveying the survivors. Everyone mobile. Mostly. Counselor Vesh has a fractured anterior plate, and Mika's got internal injuries. We've been stabilizing her as best we can, but we've got medical supplies on the shuttle. Park nodded to Dasik, who immediately jogged back toward the ship. The harvesters are in a holding pattern? For 3 days. We don't know why. The helmeted soldier spoke for the first time, voice filtered through their suit speakers. They're waiting for something. Probably authorization from a control node that doesn't exist anymore. Female voice, matter of fact. Ghost protocol. We've seen it before. This is Sergeant Lee Soyeon, Park said. Our tech specialist. She'll get you loaded on the shuttle while Dasik and I handle the drones. Yaren blinked. Handle them? There are 16 harvesters out there. 17, actually, Soyeon corrected, still scanning. One's hiding in your ship's debris field. Sneaky bastard. Park was already walking toward the ridge, checking. Her rifle with the casual competence of someone who'd done it 10,000 times. We'll have you clear in 20 minutes. Soyeon, get them moving. Wait. Yaren chased after her, stumbling on the uneven ground. You can't just fight them. Those things took apart a colony ship. Park stopped, turned. For the first time, something like amusement crossed her face. Kong Yaren, how long did you think Earth spent preparing after the first Kthrex incursions? We left Earth 40 years ago. Subjective time. Right. Relative time dilation on your colony ship. You've been in transit since. Park calculated, 2187, your reference frame. It's 2283 back home. We've had almost a century to get really, really good at killing machines. The way she said it made Yaren's skin prickle. Dasik had returned with medical supplies, already treating Mika with efficiency that suggested advanced trauma training. Soyeon was herding the survivors toward the shuttle, her armored form somehow both intimidating and reassuring. Park checked her wrist display. Dasik, you ready? Always, LT. They moved together, crossing the ridge line and disappearing from view. Yaren wanted to watch, wanted to see what happened next, but Soyeon physically turned her around. Trust me, you don't want to see this. The lieutenant gets enthusiastic. She guided Yaren toward the shuttle. Come on, let's get you somewhere safe. The shuttle's interior was cramped but clean, smelling of recycled air and gun oil. Military efficiency in every surface. Soyeon started loading survivors, checking each one for injuries, her movements gentle despite the imposing armor. How did you find us? Yaren asked. Our beacon only had a 50 light-year range. Relay network, Soyeon said. helping Vesh into a crash seat. Earth's been building infrastructure for the last 60 years. Communication buoys, automated defense platforms, patrol routes. Your signal bounced through 7 relays before it hit our ship. Yo, you came all this way for 18 people. Soyen's helmet turned toward her, and even though Yeren couldn't see her face, she felt the weight of that look. We come for everyone. That's the whole point. Outside, the first explosion made the shuttle rock on its landing struts. Ah, there goes number 1, Soyeon said cheerfully, like she was commenting on the weather. More explosions followed, a steady rhythm of destruction. Yeren counted 9 before losing track. The ground shook, dust raining from the shuttle's ceiling. The other survivors looked terrified, but Soyeon seemed completely unconcerned, continuing her medical assessments like nothing was happening. 12 minutes after they'd left, Park and Dasik returned. Park was carrying what looked like a Kthrex drone's central processor core, sparks still dripping from severed connections. Dasik had scorch marks on his armor and was grinning like a maniac. 17 confirmed kills, Park announced, tossing the core to Soyeon. Souvenir for engineering. You destroyed all of them? Vesh's voice was barely a whisper. That's what we do, Dasik said, collapsing into the pilot's seat. Buckle up, folks. We've got a rendezvous with the carrier in 3 hours. The shuttle lifted off with stomach-lurching acceleration. Through the viewport, Yeren watched the settlement disappear below, the ruins of their colony ships scattered across the landscape like broken promises. Part of her wanted to feel sad, to mourn what they'd lost. Mostly, she just felt exhausted. Park had removed her armor's upper plating, revealing a sweat-soaked undersuit and more scars than Yeren could count. She caught Yeren staring and raised an eyebrow. You okay? Park asked. I don't know. Ask me when I've slept for about a week. Fair. Park pulled a water bulb from a storage compartment, took a long drink. You did good down there. Kept your people alive. Barely. Barely counts. Park settled into a seat across from her, groaning slight. Oh, why? You know how many distress calls we get where everyone's dead before we arrive? You kept them breathing. That's what matters. Yeren found herself studying the lieutenant's face, the way exhaustion sat in the corners of her eyes, the unconscious way she kept checking her wrist display. Human. Undeniably, impossibly human, but different from anyone Yeren had known. Harder. Sharper. How long have you been doing this? Yeren asked. Special ops. 8 years. Military service total? 12. You can't be older than 30. 29. Started young. Park's expression went distant for a moment. Lost my family in a Kthrex raid when I was 15. Outlier incident, before we had proper defenses. Figured I'd make sure it didn't happen to anyone else. The casual way she said it made Yeren's throat tight. I'm sorry. Long time ago. Park refocused on her, seeming to really see her for the first time. You're from the Kim orbital station, right? I can tell from your accent. Yeah. Born there. Lived there until the colony recruitment. I trained at Kim for 6 months. Beautiful station. The gardens on level 7. With the cherry trees? Yeren felt something unclench in her chest. I practically lived there as a kid. Those trees are probably older than both of us now, Park said softly. Time dilation's a bitch. Dasik called back from the cockpit. ETA to carrier, 2 hours 40. Everyone comfortable back there. Comfortable was relative when you were crammed into a military shuttle with 18 traumatized survivors, but nobody complained. Soyeon had set up a portable medical station and was systematically treating everyone's injuries. Vesh was already looking better, his faceplates regaining some of their natural iridescence. Yeren found herself drifting, the adrenaline crash hitting hard. Park noticed, nudged a folded emergency blanket toward her. Sleep if you can, Park said. You're safe now. Safe. The word felt foreign, like a language she'd forgotten how to speak. But she trusted it. Trusted the soldier sitting across from her with scars and tired eyes and an accent from home. Yeren slept. She woke to Dasik's voice announcing final approach, the shuttle vibrating with docking clamps engaging. Through the viewport, she could see the carrier, massive, bristling with weapons, beautiful in its lethal efficiency. The hull bore Earth's insignia, updated from the version she remembered, but still recognizable. Still home. The docking bay could have swallowed their entire colony ship. Personnel in environment suits guided them to a landing pad, where a full medical team waited with stretchers and diagnostic equipment. Efficient. Professional. Ready. Standard quarantine protocol. Park explained, helping Yeren with her crash harness. Nothing personal, just safety. You'll be processed, checked for contaminants, debriefed. Then hot food, real beds, and actual rest. What happens after that? Yeren asked. After that, you choose. Return to Earth, join another colony, stay with the fleet if you want. You've got options. The medical team took over, separating the survivors for individual examination. Yeren got separated from Park in the chaos, escorted to a sterile medical bay where doctors with gentle hands checked her over with equipment she didn't recognize. Everything was more advanced, sleeker, decades of innovation compressed into technology that seemed almost magical. They cleared her after an hour, gave her actual clothes instead of her filthy colony jumpsuit, and directed her to crew quarters. The room was small but clean, with a real mattress and temperature controls and a viewport showing stars. Yeren stood under the shower for 20 minutes, watching dirt and dried blood swirl down the drain, trying to convince herself this was real. The mess hall was crowded during dinner shift, hundreds of crew members moving with practiced efficiency. Yeren felt out of place, adrift, until a familiar voice called. Her name. Calm. Over here. Dasik was waving from a corner table, sitting with Soyeon, who'd finally removed her helmet. She was younger than Yeren expected, maybe 25, with a round face and curious eyes. Yeren joined them, carrying a tray of food that actually smelled good. Real protein, real vegetables, real bread. Her hands shook cutting into the meat. First real meal in a while. Soyeon asked sympathetically. We've been on emergency rations for 3 months. Before that, colony ship food, which is basically flavored paste. Ugh, I remember that stuff from training, Dasik said. I swear they make it taste bad on purpose, build character or something. Where's Lieutenant Park? Yeren asked, trying to sound casual. Command briefing, Soyeon said. She'll probably be stuck there for hours. Paperwork is the true enemy of special operations. They ate in comfortable silence for a while. Around them, conversations flowed in a dozen languages, crews from across Earth's territories. It felt overwhelming and wonderful simultaneously. Can I ask something? Yeren said finally. Why did you come? I mean, 18 people. That seems like a lot of effort for 18 lives. Dasik interrupted, his expression suddenly serious. You know what Earth learned from the Frex Wars? That every single human matters. Every single one. We lost millions before we figured that out. Now, we come for everyone. The lieutenant lost her whole family, Soyeon added quietly. She takes it personally. All of it. Yeren thought about Park's scars, the way she'd said, long time ago, like the pain was old furniture she'd learned to live with. She saved our lives. Yeah, she's good at that. Dasik smiled. Also terrible at sleeping, mediocre at poker, and makes coffee strong enough to strip paint. You'll figure out her quirks. Why would I? Because you're going to see her again, Soyeon said, grinning. She's been asking about you. Medical status, quarters assigned. And whether you needed anything. Very professional, very concerned. Heat rushed to Yeren's face. I'm sure she's just being thorough. Uh-huh, sure. That's why she threatened to fight medical if they didn't give you the good quarters. Dasik winked. Just saying, the lieutenant doesn't usually get personally invested. Yeren didn't know what to do with that information, so she focused on her food, determinately not thinking about Park's rare smile or the way her voice softened when she'd mentioned the cherry trees. She definitely wasn't thinking about it. Park showed up 3 hours later, looking exhausted and annoyed. She found Yeren in the observation deck, staring at the stars. Sorry, Park said, dropping into the seat beside her. Command wanted every detail, twice. You'd think fighting killer robots would be self-explanatory. I don't mind, Yeren said. I wasn't doing anything. Just processing. Yeah, I remember that feeling. After my first real combat mission, I just stared at walls for like 6 hours. They sat in silence, watching the carrier's running lights reflect off nearby debris. The observation deck was nearly empty this late in the ship's cycle, just a few off-duty personnel scattered around. Thank you, Yeren said eventually. I never properly thank you. For coming. For saving us. Just doing the job. No, it's more than that. You didn't have to move that fast, take those risks. Dasik told me you threatened medical over my quarters. Park had the decency to look embarrassed. He talks too much. He cares about you. They both do. Yeah, well, good team. Park shifted in her seat, uncomfortable with the attention. You holding up okay? I don't know yet. Sometimes I forget, and then I remember, and it's like, Yaren's voice broke. Sorry. Don't apologize. You survived something horrible. You're allowed to feel it. Park hesitated, then carefully placed her hand on Yaren's arm. The touch was tentative, unpracticed, like she wasn't sure. She was allowed. It gets easier. Not better, but easier. Yaren looked at Park's hand, then at her face. Up close, in the soft light, she was striking in an unconventional way. All sharp angles and contained strength, but something vulnerable underneath. Can I ask you something personal? Yaren said. Sure. Why did you really check on me? Soyeon said you don't usually. I don't. Park pulled her hand back, but slowly. I don't know. Something about you. The way you kept your people together, stayed functional under pressure. That takes strength. Or stubbornness. Same thing sometimes. Park's expression shifted, uncertain. And maybe, you reminded me that some things are worth fighting for. Not just survival, but life. Actual life. The observation deck's lights dimmed automatically, ship's night cycle beginning. Stars grew brighter in the viewport, endless and beautiful and terrifying. I thought we were going to die, Yaren admitted. Really believed it. And then you fell from the sky like some kind of avenging angel, and I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Avenging angel is generous. I'm more like a heavily armed problem solver. You solved our problem pretty thoroughly. Park laughed, a real laugh that transformed her entire face. Yeah, we did. Dasik loves blowing up Threx equipment. I think he has a collection of trophy parts in his locker. That's deeply weird. Special operations attracts a specific personality type. They talked until late, swapping stories. Park described Earth, how it had changed, rebuilt, grown stronger. Cities Yaren remembered destroyed were thriving again. Technologies she'd thought theoretical were commonplace. Humanity had learned hard lessons and emerged sharper, more resilient. Yaren talked about the colony, the hope they'd carried across impossible distances, the communities they'd tried to build, the friendships lost, the dreams that died with the ship. I don't know what to do now, Yaren confessed. Ever. Everything I planned for is gone. So make new plans, Park said. You've got time. No rush. What would you do? If you were me? Park considered carefully. Honestly, I'd probably stick with the fleet for a while. Get your feet under you. Figure out who you are now. Then decide. The fleet takes civilians. We take anyone with useful skills. You're a communications specialist, right? We always need those. Could sign on as civilian contractor. See how it feels. Park met her eyes. I might be biased, though. I'd like it if you stayed. Yaren's heart did something complicated. Yeah. Park looked away, suddenly fascinated by the viewport. But it's your choice. No pressure. The ship's intercom chimed, announcing final call for night cycle. Around them, the last few personnel filed out, heading for quarters. I should let you sleep, Park said, standing. You need rest. Wait. Yaren stood too, close enough to catch the faint smell of gun oil and recycled air that clung to Park's uniform. Can I see you tomorrow? Talk more. Park's smile was small but genuine. I'd like that. Meet me for breakfast? 0800 hours. It's a date. It's breakfast. Park corrected, but her eyes were warm. Right. Breakfast. They stood there awkwardly for a moment, neither quite ready to leave, before Park finally stepped back. Good night, Yaren. Good night, Minjae. Using her first name felt significant, a tiny intimacy in the vastness of space. Park's expression suggested she felt it too. Yaren watched her walk away, straight-backed and competent, and carrying the weight of 1,000 responsibilities like they were nothing. Then she turned back to the viewport, looking at stars that suddenly seemed less terrifying. Maybe new plans weren't such a bad idea. She met Park for breakfast at precisely 0800 hours, finding her already seated with coffee and a datapad, reviewing reports. Park looked up, smiled, and the simple warmth of it made Yaren's stomach flip. Sleep okay? Park asked. Ed, better than I have in weeks. You. Couple hours. Usual. They fell into an easy rhythm over the following days. Park had duties, missions to plan, teams to lead, but she carved out time. Breakfast most mornings, dinner when schedules allowed, stolen hours in the observation deck. They talked about everything and nothing, sharing pieces of themselves like careful gifts. Yeren learned that Park loved old Earth music, the kind preserved in archives, and would hum unconsciously while working. That she had nightmares sometimes, but never talked about them. That she was fiercely protective of her team and terrible at accepting help herself. Park learned that Yeren had a gift for languages, could replicate alien phonemes with unsettling accuracy. That she'd wanted to be an artist before practical necessity pushed her toward communications. That she laughed when nervous and cried when angry, and both were equally likely to happen without warning. 2 weeks in, sitting in the observation deck at some ungodly hour, Park finally asked the question that had been hovering between them. "Are you staying?" "With the fleet." Yeren had been expecting it, had thought about little else. "I applied for a civilian contractor position, communications specialist, and they approved it, pending final security clearance, but that's just formality." She watched Park's reflection in the viewport. "I'm staying." Park's shoulders relaxed, tension Yeren hadn't noticed disappearing. "Good. That's good. Is it?" "Yeah." Park turned to face her fully. "I know this is complicated, and I'm terrible at this, but I want you to know." The ship's emergency klaxon blared, cutting her off. Red alert lighting flooded the deck, and Park was on her feet instantly, all softness vanishing into professional readiness. Her comm crackled. "Lieutenant Park, report to deployment bay. Threx contact, multiple hostiles, colony under attack. Green light for immediate response." Park's jaw tightened. "Acknowledged. Get. 2 minutes." She looked at Yeren, conflict clear in her expression. "I have to. I know. Go." Yeren stood, grabbed her hand briefly. "Be safe." "Always am." Park squeezed back, then released her and ran. Yeren made it to the observation deck's exterior viewport in time to see the assault shuttle launch, executing the same aggressive maneuvers she'd first witnessed weeks ago. Park and her team, diving into danger because that's what they did. That's who they were. The waiting was excruciating. Yeren threw herself into work, monitoring communications chatter, tracking the mission through official channels. The Threx had hit a mining colony on the sector's edge, 12 harvesters, and a command unit. Park's team engaged, supported by 2 other special operations squads. The battle lasted 6 hours. When the shuttle finally docked, Yeren was waiting in the bay, ignoring protocols about civilian access. Dasik emerged first, limping slightly. Soyan next, helping carry equipment. Then Park, bloodied but walking, arguing with someone on comms about proper ammunition requisition procedures. She saw Yeren and stopped mid-sentence, whatever she was saying forgotten. "You're hurt," Yeren said, closing the distance between them. "Superficial. Looks worse than it is." Park's armor had scorch marks, dents, one pauldron missing entirely. "You shouldn't be here, civilians aren't." Yeren kissed her. It was impulsive, probably inappropriate, definitely not following any kind of proper protocol. Park made a surprised sound, then kissed back, armor and blood and exhaustion and all. Someone wolf whistled. Dasik, definitely Dasik. They broke apart, and Park's expression was stunned, almost fragile. "Oh, yeah," Yeren agreed. "Oh, I'm disgusting right now, covered in hydraulic fluid and probably some kind of alien lubricant. I don't care. I need medical clearance, debriefing, ammunition report." "I know." Park's hands found Yeren's waist, careful despite the armor. "Aft. Are all that, can I see you?" "You better." Park smiled, real and unguarded and absolutely beautiful. "It's a date." "Yeah, it is." Around them, the deployment bay continued its organized chaos. Medics rushing forward, equipment being offloaded, damage assessments beginning. But for a moment, in the middle of all that controlled violence and efficiency, 2 women stood together and pretended the universe wasn't trying to kill them. It was enough. The colony they'd saved sent a formal thank you, recorded message of grateful survivors. Yeren watched it with Park in her quarters, curled together on a bunk too small for 2, but making it work anyway. "You do this every time?" Yeren asked. "Risk everything for people you don't know?" "Every time." Park confirmed, her arm around Yeren's shoulders. "That's the job. Doesn't it scare you?" "Terrifies me. But less than the alternative." Park pulled her closer. "Someone has to stand between the darkness and everyone else." "Might as well be me." "Us," Yeren corrected. "Might as well be us." Park looked at her, surprise evident. "You're a communications specialist. Who speaks 9 languages, understands alien cultural contexts, and can coordinate between disparate species under pressure. Yeren sat up, facing her fully. Park Min-jae, I didn't survive hell just to play it safe. If you're diving into danger, I want to be your voice back home. Your link to command. Your safety net. That's dangerous. Living is dangerous. I'd rather do it with you. Park's expression cycled through concern, pride, fear, and finally settled on something warm and accepting. Okay, but you're getting full tactical training. Non-negotiable. Deal. They sealed it with a kiss that tasted like coffee and promises and the infinite possibilities of tomorrow. 3 months later, Yeren sat in the shuttle's communications bay, monitoring 6 channels simultaneously while Park's team engaged a KFREX scout patrol. Her hands flew across the console, coordinating between Park's squad, air support, and the carrier's tactical center. Hostile Alpha 3 neutralized. Park's voice crackled through. Moving to secondary position. Copy that, Yeren replied, checking fleet positions. Be advised, you've got air support inbound. ETA 90 seconds. Friendly IFF, don't shoot them. Wouldn't dream of it. A pause, then more quietly. Love you. Yeren grinned, despite the tension. Love you too. Now focus, I want you back in one piece. Yes, ma'am. Dasik's laughter echoed through the channel. You too are disgusting. Shut up and shoot things, Corporal. Park ordered, but Yeren could hear her smile. The mission concluded successfully, 0 casualties, hostile contacts eliminated. When the shuttle docked, Park made straight for communications, pulled Yeren into a kiss that was definitely not regulation appropriate. Good work, Park murmured against her lips. You too. Minimal damage this time. I'm getting better. Or I'm getting better at keeping you safe. Park laughed, the sound free and joyful. Yeah, maybe that. They walked through the carrier's corridors hand in hand, soldiers and specialists and civilians moving around them with the easy efficiency of a crew that worked. That lived. That fought for something worth fighting for. Yeren thought about the terrified woman who'd sat in the dust, counting hours until death. How small that world had been, how hopeless. And then warriors had fallen from the sky, and everything changed. Not just warriors. One warrior in particular, with scars and tired eyes and a heart big enough to save strangers across impossible distances. What are you thinking about? Park asked. Hope, Yeren said simply. How we find it. Park squeezed her hand. Sometimes it finds us. Above them, through the carrier's viewports, stars stretched endless and bright. Somewhere out there, colonies needed defending, people needed saving, darkness needed pushing back. They'd be ready. They were always ready. When hope was lost, Earth's warriors fell from the sky. And sometimes, if you were very lucky, one of them stayed.